Testing 1 2 1 2. All right, I can hear myself. All right, y'all. This is a Mulhuta Nudimud e Kahagatu El in our Nuwabian Tagwum. It is Shahur Amun Arba Usbu Yawum Shil Antum. So that's the third month, fourth week, and that is the 17th day of the month of Amun, year 74. All praise is due to Anu and Dr. Malachi Yurdel. Hey y'all, just wanted to talk to y'all today. Again, this is another one of my issues that I want to bring up, and it's basically about what area that I want to talk about today? The Cushite, the Black Chaldeans. I brought a book by John Brinson. He goes by the Moorish name Abu Amin Ra. We all know it should be Amin Re, but that's okay. Everybody's trying to get out the spell and learn the language, right? So that's hopefully he'll make that permanent transition. But the brother's a scholar, and he wrote a book called The Black Chaldeans and the Cushite Seed People of the Tigris and Euphrates Valleys. And I've been reading this book because I've been hearing, in the world, especially in Turtle Island, which the Caucasus, or the Caucasoid, or Tamahu calls America, that the Chaldeans were not us. And I'm hearing this from other Moorish people, dark-skinned, woolly-haired people. So I'm like, wait a minute. Chaldeans are us. Because I've seen multiple books and scholars that have stated the fact that, yes, the Chaldeans came from the sons of Ham and the sons of Cush. So I don't see how someone could really fix their lips to say that we're not Chaldeans or Sumerians and all that. We're all that. So that's nonsense to be talking like that to me. The Nuwabian, I just can't let that go down, especially amongst our own people. Maybe we're not in the same nation, but same genetics. We can't let each other slide with bad facts. So I just wanted to read some excerpts out of this book that would help clarify the issue of, are we Chaldeans or is the Tamahu a Chaldean? Right? So let's kind of go into this book and figure this out. So actually, let me go back to page 39. Let me read this. Remember, the author is John Brinson, aka Abu Amin Re. And this chapter is called The Ancient Cushites. It seems to me impossible for any free-minded scholar to study the traditions, mythologies, fragmentary records, monuments, and other remains of the prehistoric ages, and fail to see that the people described in the Hebrew scriptures as Cushites were the original civilizers of the so-called Middle East, and that back into dimmest antiquity. Their influence was established in nearly all the coastline regions, from the extreme east of rising of the sun to the extreme west of the old world, or the setting of the sun. This has been repeatedly pointed out with more or less clarity. It is one of those solid facts that must be accepted. All right, and I got a number 50 on here, which references another book by John D. Baldwin called Prehistoric Nations. All right. Who were these ancient Cushites? Of course, they were the people of Cush. But what does that tell us? The terms Cush and Ethiopia were interchangeable. depending on who was doing the communicating and to whom. Where is Cush. Many white scholars contend they were a branch of the so-called Aryan race, whatever that means. What do you say? So it's very important we get a grip on any Moors in the diaspora. You know what I mean? Because, he's saying that this white scholar, he talks about a lot of racist white scholars in his book. They're trying to say that these Cushites were an Aryan race. But we all know Aryan means title. So there can't be an Aryan race. So they're ignorant. Racism will blind you and make you ignorant real quick. And then you try to become a scholar on top of that, and it's just embarrassing for some of these white folks. So let's keep reading. African scholar teacher Drusilla Houston provided the following light to many, and a substantiation for the long-held beliefs of others in her following claim in her delightful and inspiring book, Wonderful Ethiopian and the Ancient Cushite. Our story will deal with the ancient Cushite empire of Ethiopians that covered 3 continents and held unbroken sway for 3,000 years. We will visit old Ethiopia, whereas Herodotus said, the gods delighted to banquet with the pious inhabitants. We will study the land and the ancient race. The old race will next win our attention. That Petri found in Egypt of distinct and unique culture, who were the people of the earlier and superior civilization of the first dynasties. So she's saying that the Ethiopians were of one of the first dynasties that migrated over to the Nile, set up the dynasties of Egypt. Some people may contend that, but as long as they're all Moors, I'm happy. Down through this prehistoric vista, we see Happy Arabi with her brilliant, primitive culture and her unrivaled literature of later days. On the screen flashes the rich and surpassing culture of old Chaldea, which belonged to the ancient Kushite empire of Ethiopians. Okay, let's stop right there. So, this race of Ethiopians. Now, this book goes on to claim that the Ethiopians actually predated Egypt and actually migrated over to Egypt, Tamaray, right? That they were the first people there to set up their kingdoms. Some people may argue that, and I would argue it too, because I've heard some people say in their books, like Michael Tellinger and Graham Hancock, who are Tamahus, but they're not racist Tamahus. So we can kind of take their work seriously. They said that the ancient Egyptians said their forefathers came from southern Africa, like 40 or 50,000 years later, and they found temples in what they're calling South Africa now, Botswana, in that area, temples that go back 30, 40, 50,000 years. So the evidence tends to lead me in that place rather than Ethiopia, because Ethiopia don't go back that far, right? But I'm not saying it's not a possibility. So these things would have to be looked at. But one thing we can conclude is that the Neolithic culture was Tamarayan. We know that the original Ethiopians were definitely Moors, right? That migrated into Tamaray, right? What I'm calling Tamaray is the Egypt area, Hikupta and Anu and Heliopolis, that area. And then they also went into northeast Nubia, right? Which they're calling the Arabian Peninsula, and then the Middle East, which there's no such thing as the Middle East. They're just trying to draw a segment in your mind to cut you off. If you're a Moor, they're trying to cut you off with these names that they designate these places they're not even from, right? So who gives them the right to name a place that they're not even from, or name a people like Negroid, nigger, these derogatory terms because of their immaturity and their ignorance? Who gives them the right to name us, right? And Dr. Ben Yakinen, who's a scholar on Moorish studies, said when we went into Spain, we told them to call us Moors, right? Which goes back to E.A. Wallace's hieroglyphic dictionary and explains what the word Maur means the high priest of Anu. And me, I'm going to infer that it must have also meant dark-skinned, woolly-haired person, because if you look on the internet and you type in Maur, right, and then you type in Maurenos, which is what the Greeks called us, you see the etymology in the word and where it came from. And since we predate the Greeks by like 20,000 years at least, there's no way that they named us Moor, right? Maor changed into Moor, but the derivative of that word in the historical etymology, Maor would be the first word that came into existence to describe our people. So that's why I stick with Moor. And if you look back in history, even through the Talmud books, you'll see that Moor has much respect on it. Much greater than Negro, better than nigger, better than blackamoor. They tried to make the transition from black, coming from Moor to blackamoor, and then they just started calling you black when they hated our guts. So anyway, let me keep reading, man. Where was I? Okay, here we go. We note the Kushite Ethiopians were the founders of civilization and passed it down the Nile Valley to Egypt and through Northeast Africa to the Euphrates valleys and to the rest of the world from the rising to the setting of the sun. This did not occur a couple of thousand years ago, but was taking place before any European civilization existed by the Ethiopian people who have their origin on the African continent. Now, you need to stop calling people Europeans because it's not really specific to a race of people, because the Moors were in Europe too. Like, even before we went around the late 7th century or the early 8th century, we were already in Europe. Even before that, we were in Europe. Because thousands of years ago, we were in Eurasia, and like the paragraph just said, before any European civilization even existed, we were already over there. So we covered like the whole planet. That's what people need to get in their heads. So when you say European, the connotation is Caucasoid, someone who's Rh negative, right? But that's not true because we were there too. So you would have to say Caucasian, not say European civilization. You'd have to say a Caucasoid civilization. So anyway, let me keep reading. The great period of the Kushite or Ethiopian race had closed many ages previous to the time of Homer. Although separate communities of that race remain, not only in Egypt, but also in southern Arabia, in Phoenicia, in Africa, and elsewhere east and west. The distance in time from our age to that of Homer is much less than that from his age to the very remote period when the Kushites of Arabia colonized Chaldea. And there's a reference there, Chaldea, John D. Baldwin, Prehistoric Nations, right? So John D. Baldwin wrote a book called Prehistoric Nations. Sounds like a good book. We should probably check it out. The ancient terms Ethiopians and Kushites were interchangeable names of a people who were renamed by others. The terms Kush and Ethiopia were provided to define our motherland and our people of the continent by the spiteful, mischievous white man and his family for ideological and political reasons. Yeah, he goes from the term Kush, Kushites, Ethiopians. Me, I just say Moors. If you want to break it down into more sub-Moroid groups, you could say Ethiopians and Kushites, because you could see a lot of people from Somalia don't look like people from Nigeria. Even though they're Moors, you can tell that their DNA is a little different. And then the early people of Arabia, the Kushites, which I infer that people from the Dravidians, when going through Arabia to get to India, when they migrated to India, also mixed in with these people. Because you see, if you look at Dr. Wesley Muhammad's book, Black Arabia, you'll see that a lot of people from Arabia look like people from Somalia, or even Ethiopia today. So, that's something to look into too. There's so many things to look into, but we can only do one thing at a time, right? More. So, all right, let's keep it moving here. How many of you have heard? You know what? Let's skip that part. Let's get into the meat on the bone. Significance. Okay, yeah, let's read this one. In studying the influence of this more ancient culture and seeking to discover the source from which it proceeded, we are led to Arabia and to a people known in remote antiquity as Ethiopians and Cushites. It is evident that in ages older than Egypt or Chaldea, go ages away in the past, far beyond the limit of Usher's chronology. All right, somebody named Usher probably wrote a timeline or something about people in Ethiopia and Kush. Arabia was the seat of an enlightened and enterprising civilization, which went forth into the neighboring countries and spread its influence from the extremity of the east to the extremity of the west. At that time, Arabia was exalted and wonderful Ethiopia of old tradition, the center and light of what in Western Asia was known as the civilized world. Western Asia, which is really Northeast Nubia, because there's no Middle East, right? No such thing as Middle East. There are traditions of the ancient Eastern world which, rightly interpreted, can have no other meaning, and modern research presents linguistic and ethnological problems that could have no other satisfactory solution. Okay, so I guess some guy named John Baldwin wrote that, the guy who wrote Prehistoric Nations. Just so you aren't misled by John Baldwin's comment, I shall allow our own Drusilla Houston to elaborate on the preceding claim of Baldwin. Arabia was once a portion of the ancient Kushite Empire. Some authorities claim that it was the original seat of Ethiopian culture. The ordinary encyclopedia and historical book give but little light upon the early race life of Arabia. When our research has gone deeper, we will find that the true ethnic story of Arabia, Asia Minor, and India have not yet been told. Recent books have rewritten the history of ancient Greece, as the finding or archaeology revealed other races and other sources for the civilization of Hellenic lands. The history of Arabia needs rewriting. This chapter is a contribution in that direction, the sum total of the careful investigation of scholars and investigators whom we can trust. The ancients gave Arabia a triple division: Petrea, the stony; Deserta, the desert; and Felix, the happy. I don't know what that means yet. I know Deserta means the desert, but all right, let me keep going. They did not assign to these any distinct boundaries, and much of the real surface of Arabia is unknown to us today. Yemen includes the whole southwest quarter, which possesses many advantages in climate and soil. Here existed to almost our times the late flowers of the rich primeval civilization, which did not spring from the Semitic race. I don't know what Semitic race means, but which is in possession of Arabia today. Arabia Deserta is the land of the Semitic Arabian, for we find two races incorporated in the term Arabian. The ancient Adites and the Thamudites were of Ham. The ancient inhabitants of Arabia Petrea were of the Anu, of the old race of Egypt. All right. And let's keep going on. So, wait a minute. So, the Semitic race, she needs to define that a little better. You know what I mean? Either that's, is that Eastern Russians? Is that Western Russians? Is that Is that the Indians that mixed in with the early uh, Persians? Who is that? I have no idea. The Semitic race that we get caught up in these word games, and it's hard to decipher. But I think she means somebody other than a Moor. You know what I mean? Other than a Moor who came in, mixed in with us, and eventually pushed most of our people south back into North Africa. All right. She goes on further to enlighten us on the ancient people who were the aborigines of this area, and makes the following claim as she further enlightens our darkened mind. She provides information on the ancient Anu ruler in ancient Egypt. This appears similar to the people who populated pre-dynastic Egypt under the god Ptah. So another thing is that I'm hearing that people are trying to separate Anu from Tamaray. They even call people Anu rulers. Now, I'm not saying this lady's totally correct, but she's not the only one saying that that Anu was not only a part of Sumerian life, it was also a part of Tamarian or Egyptian life. And it was not through conquest. It was more through migration. So I have yet to see any evidence that to the contrary. Okay, I think that's pretty much what I want to share with you guys today. All the Nuwabians out there who are lost in the diaspora, don't have feel like they don't have a home to come to. You could always join us for our HTM calls. If you want to join the Ancient Mystic Order of Melchizedek, that order is open. There's been some things going on internally that kind of gave us a little setback, but we Moorish brothers, we bounce back. We Nuwabian Moors, we bounce back, and nothing holds us back from our destiny or fate as a people. So if you want to give us a call, you can give us a call at 855-849-1799. Somebody should be able to pick up the phone Monday through Friday. If not, leave a message. We will get back to you. Check out goldenmoreservices.com for any books you may want to buy. The tablets will be coming out. I know the dates keep getting pushed back, but it'll be out probably sometime in, October. There's some things we're figuring out there, so we want to get the book to you guys nice and perfect as possible. So be on the lookout for that. Peace to Brother Terra Moon. Peace to my girl. Not married yet, but soon to be. Soon to be, y'all. Soon to be. She's the right woman for me, man. I can't deny that. She be cooking, boy. She be cooking, boy. And it's I never had a woman cook for me like this before in my life, but I had those do nothing women before, but now I see what having a happy home is all about. Making sure you fix some bath water for the wife or for my girl, and massage her feet. Tell her what she needs to hear after a long day of work. We got a beauty salon, and so anyway, Brother Mabuth doing his thing, y'all. He doing his thing. I'm all right. My bills is paid. And I'm feeling good. There's nothing to hold us back here. There's a lot of other projects going on in the background too. We want to start getting into the clothes, start making clothes. If there's any clothes designers out there, hit us up at that number. Be more than happy to hear your ideas. We got some internally floating around amongst the brothers, and we'll see what can transpire from that. We do have land in Arizona, but needs to be cultivated, and that's going to take some work. Probably take a couple years before we can even. Maybe next year we can build something on there. We got to get it cleared first. So there's a ton of crap, ton of things going on. I call it crap sometimes because it could be heavy on you, but as long as we enable our time management skills, we're able to get all things done. So anyway, I feel like I'm rambling on, and I hope y'all enjoyed my excerpt reading from the Black Chaldeans and the Cushite Seed People of the Tigris and Euphrates Rivers by John Brinson. I think he brought a lot of enlightenment, used a lot of good resources to back up his claims. And if you look at the cover of the book, you can find this book on Amazon, by the way. If you look at the book, the picture I would think is from Chaldea, which is where Abraham is from, right? I mean, the brothers got braids in their hair and their beard. You know, I don't know. They look like Moors to me. Twisted up. I mean, the braids is twisted up, tight, nice and neat, clean brothers. Look like strong brothers. But look at the book for yourself, maybe, and check it out. I would definitely buy it. It's a good read. I haven't even finished it all the way yet. I think I'm about a little less than halfway. So, anyway, Wadu, enjoy your Saturday. And I'm signing off.